Hey boys and girls, it's your resident lore master back again with some ROR2 content. The basic story of ROR is really bare bones until you do a bit of research and read the lore logs, which opens up the universe and the story for the game a lot more, with hints and details, but it also expands on many aspects of the universe that are not really focused on. So today we're going to take a look at one of those aspects, so if you guys enjoy it, welcome to the ROR2 deep dive, weaponry. To even begin discussing the weaponry of ROR2, we have to understand the resources available to the humans that were spacefaring. They were probably capable of FTL travel, faster than light travel, which gave them access to many different resources that were not previously accessible, and it also probably created some level of stratification in the technology and weapons that were available depending on where the humans went and settled overall. But we're going to break this down into different categories, as there's many weapons that we could categorize in ROR2, starting with the cold weapons, hot weapons, Overtech weapons, magic weapons, and singularity weapons, which would be our special category, which I will elaborate on more later. But let's just start with the cold weapons. A cold weapon is a weapon that does not use heat and or explosions to function. So anything like a dagger, sword, knife, blunt weapon like a bat could be considered a cold weapon. There's no combustion used at all. The main characters that we know of that we have that use cold weapons would be Accurate and also the Bandit, because he has a serrated dagger that he throws. Everybody else kind of uses hot weapons in one way, shape, or form. But most of the ROR weapons, there's a small majority of cold weapons that could have been accessible to many of the humans in the ROR universe, but we'll go over some of them here. Some of them being basically the triple tip dagger, the crowbar, the harvester scythes, as well as the sawmering. These weapons are pretty good overall from an effect standpoint, but in the ROR universe, these probably would be things that are pretty easy to get and use for the average person. So you wouldn't have too much trouble acquiring these. But let's move on to the hot weapons, which I find a lot more interesting. Hot weapons can be described as weapons that use thermal energy or gunpowder or some sort of explosion to inflict damage or function. This classification of weapon will also be easily accessible in the ROR universe due to the spacefaring nature of humans and the hostile environments they will probably have to exist in or just live in overall. Some of the main characters that utilize hot weapons are Commando, our OG vanilla guy, Bandit, the Captain, as well as Moti. Most of their weapons use combustion or some type of propulsion to function. Everyone else's are of a different category, which we will expand on later. But other than the main characters, the primary hot weapons that could be considered are the sticky bomb, stun grenade, ATG missile launcher, and a disposable missile launcher in this category. These will be accessible on the level of you being able to buy them from your local gun shop, just as the way you already can buy regular firearms in our standard world right now without such threats as aliens and spacefaring things. So these will be a lot more accessible. But compared to the other category, our next category, which is the Overtech weapons, which are my favorite, which will be heavily regulated and hard to get. These are very easily accessible and can be gotten by the regular civilian, probably anywhere that general weapons are sold, or for a little bit of a heftier price tag. Now, moving on to the freaking Overtech weapons. This category, I love almost everything in this category. It's like high technology, probably state-of-the-art technology that's the utmost difficult to get or to acquire, which means it will be military grade, things that are highly restricted to be brought or acquired and would have to be acquired through the military or through some sort of black market vendor or something like that. But these are amazingly powerful, versatile, and very dangerous things that not everybody in the spacefaring buyer ecosystem will be able to get. But beginning to talk about the Overtech weapons, the first relevant character would definitely be Huntress, due to the fact that she has a self-sustaining laser bow that technically would have infinite arrows that she can shoot, which is proven by the footage and the launch trailer for ROR. She literally pulls the bowstring and manifests the arrow out of literally nothing. And we also have Mercenary with his laser sword, which also seems to be a self-sustained weapon, which probably needs an energy source, but considering the laser blade is constantly energized, it could be perpetually infinite. So within the same category as Huntress with an Overtech weapon. Then moving on from there, there's Loader, who has an exoskeleton suit, which isn't super high next level technology, but it will have to have a good power source or some type of highly sustained power source to function, just due to the fact of how Loader uses it and the amount of functionality time that she runs with. So this definitely could be considered an Overtech weapon. And we also have Engineer. Mainly he's kind of in this category due to the fact of his turrets being probably nanotech, and they are kind of like manifest out of anything when he drops them down. So that's definitely Overtech overall. Not too overpowered, but still pretty high tech. But moving along to, I guess, the one character that really plays into the whole Overtech vibe would definitely be the Railgunner, due to her whole kit being like Overtech. Her regular primary are smart rounds that track enemies down, which usually requires some sort of nanotech or some type of high-tech camera being built into the round, which is overpowered. Plus her sniper rifle having two forms built into one being the regular sniper and the overcharge function of the railgun. So basically all of this is fused together in one kit. So she's definitely will be considered a character with Overtech in her entire kit and a very overpowered weapon. But moving away from the characters in this category and into the items, most of them are legendary items, and they are extremely dangerous and highly lethal weapons that would definitely be hard to acquire and will be regulated by high-level organizations and or the black market. Some of these include just the Brilliant Behemoth, which definitely makes all projectiles you shoot explosives. The Ocular HUD, which actually gives you an overlaid display, something like the Railgunner has with the headshot, that will give you the ability to target critical and weak points really easily. And so it's an assisted targeted system. So kind of like something like the Terminator, where you would like just automatically be able to zone in on headshots and instantaneously kill a lot of enemies. The Resonance Disc, which basically you charge it up and it homes in and literally rips your enemies apart via its own targeting system. So that's another very dangerous weapon. There's the Prion Accumulator, which basically charges up plasma energy and fires it. So you would have to have really advanced technology for you to sustain that energy and fire it stably at any. And last but not least, there's Shattering Justice, which looks like basically just a large type of advanced hammer, but it's definitely more complex than that, because the hammer itself is coated with nanotech toxin that literally breaks down the atomic structure of anything that you hit it with. And this is so, dangerous to the fact that you have to just wear special gloves to even use the darn thing. That's not lethal or one of the most dangerous Overtech weapons. I don't know what is. Let me know what you guys think about that. But anyway, moving along, those are most of the relevant Overtech weapons. There's some more that are in the update and Survivors of the Void, but we'll go over them another time. These are the most relevant and the ones that stick out the most to me. But onto a, I guess, unique category within the deep dive would be the magic weapons. There's only one character that we could really say within the Risk of Rain 2 franchise that definitively seems like they use magic or some type of magic-esque abilities, which would be the Artificer or Artificer. This could also be some of the abilities of her suit, which is, she shoots flames out, void, small like void or spatial energy blast. This could also be functions of her suit, but I would think not, because also within the Risk of Rain lore and universe, there's been basically the confirmation of magic and magical abilities and properties in certain items that we get and use. So I would be inclined to think that the Artificer does have magical abilities, especially since she's part of an organization so known as the High Court. You guys can read about that in her lore log, and there's a video on that, but you guys can search that up yourself. But some of the main items that could be considered magic weapons would be Runo and Kajaro's bands. When you hit something with them, melee, trajectile, whatever, it can cause a runic fire or ice explosion. The Bottled Wisp, which is essentially a wisp, would be a magical or spiritual entity, but when you hit something with it or use it, it causes them to explode and, forgive me please, which technically curses your enemies and stacks effects on top of them. So these could be considered magic weapons. So it's not really an explanation for them in the Risk of Rain universe. They just kind of are. There's other things like the Jade Elephant that just grants you defense and stuff. So magic definitely feels like it's confirmed in the Risk of Rain universe, but they're not defined. And considering the accessibility of magic weapons, they would definitely be heavily regulated, but not even everybody would be able to use them. It seems like it would be very specific, or like the organization like the High Court or something will be the only ones that actually have any knowledge about how to use them or utilize these items overall. So they would not be very accessible to everyone, and everyone probably wouldn't be able to use them. So that's mostly the magical weapon category. But moving along from here, we basically go into the singularity weapon category, which is actually, at this point, they aren't really just weapons anymore. There are things that technically break the laws of physics, time, space, or other things that would be fundamental building blocks of our reality as we know it, while also being able to create a lot of destruction and just be very dangerous overall. So that's why we're including it as a category known as singularity weapons. But there are two characters that probably embody this well, one being Rex, due to the fact that Rex is a singularity of a fusion of a biological and mechanical entity and is sentient. And on the other hand, towards that, the other character that would embody this would be the Void Fiend, who utilizes void corruption that he or she radiates and exerts towards the outside world. Other singularities in this category include beings like Providence and Mithrix, as well as Mithrix had the power of design, which allowed him to create a lot of the autonomous war machines that you see on Commencement and a lot of the devices that you see on the planet of Petrogor 5. And also Providence's singularity ability, which is Soul, which allowed him to communicate on some different levels with biological creatures and somehow have other powers over them, which is why he was able to, gather all these different species on the planet and have them interact with each other in a non-lethal manner and coexist due to his power of Soul, which could also be considered a singularity. We also have Mr. or Mrs. Newt over here that actually basically has the power over space, or rather space and time as well. They can teleport you out. Newt can teleport you out whenever they please, teleport you from new altars, and basically can interfere with those primordial forces, which definitely would put them in the category of being a singularity. But we mentioned all these characters as singularities first because the weapons that could actually be considered singularities themselves, or the items, literally kind of break the walls of reality or conventional thinking overall. But let's just move on to some of those and break them down. But getting right into this category, we have things like the ceremonial dagger, which is if you kill something with it, it creates phantom or spectral knives that will seek out any other living thing. Just based off that one fact, you can literally cause an extinction event with the darn ceremonial dagger. Little Disciple, which literally shoots out wisps to track and kill enemies by you just running around and holding it. The Shape Glass, which I think is one of everyone's favorite items or weapons as it can be called, because it just doubles your damage. There's no other, and it acts as if it's applied as a universal rule, so that would definitely be considered a singularity. And last but not least, there's Nukuhana's Opinion, which basically uses soul energy as you run around and creates flaming skulls that home in on kill enemies. Basically, you don't really have to do much but get healed, so that's probably another singularity rule or something of that nature that can be considered a singularity weapon. But for this category in the singularity weapons, they would be something that you would definitely be born with, or you would go through incredibly insane lengths to get or to be able to acquire. Like a lot of these items in Risk of Rain are only encountered because they're on the planet of Petrogor 5, or are items that were being transported by the Contact Light that were probably heavily guarded and restricted in some way or form. So you would be unlikely to get any of these things in their universe, or you would just have to be born with some of the law or singularity powers that some of the characters and beings in Risk of Rain 2 have. In conclusion though, after breaking down this deep dive and looking at all the weapon categories, there are some that are really easily accessible within the Risk of Rain universe for humans and probably other entities within the universe, and there are many that are not easily accessible and that you will only probably be able to get in certain areas of the universe, and they will be heavily regulated by humans or other such creatures that were sentient, which is, this is just a big expanse on the lore of Risk of Rain in depth. It just continues to show that it's not a really simple game, and it has tons of depth for us to keep combing through and expanding on, which I love. But I hope you guys enjoyed this vid. Give me your opinions on all the weapons, or what other weapons you would think would be included in these categories, why you love them, what's your favorite, whatever you guys want to share. And I'll see you guys next time. Like, sub, share, stay safe, and I'll keep the deep dives coming.